All right, you guys, Jimmy, give us a thumbs up. You can hear it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. I think we'll go ahead and get started since it is 8:35. I'm just gonna introduce myself. I'm gonna act as facilitator today. My name is Carrie. I'm the Assistant Chief of Aquatic Habitat and Compliance in our Fisheries Management Division at the department, soon to be DOW. So yeah, I'm gonna be facilitating today, so I think we will start with roll call of the CAC members. Caitlin, do you have the list? Right, is it pronounced life or leaf?
Leaf.
Leaf. Okay, leaf. All right, Mark?
Which
Well,
one?
there's two.
N.
The tiny.
Tiny. Sorry. Caitlin knows you guys better than I do. Jeffrey.
Yep, good morning.
Mark Cadwaller.
Cadwallader.
Art is online.
Oh.
James is online. John. And Ronald Loman.
Here.
Thank you for that.
I think everybody that's in the room today, otherwise was here yesterday, but I guess.
Do you CAC members would like another round of introductions from the other participants in the room or participants online?
Yeah,
That's
let's,
good.
attendees online, we didn't let you guys introduce yourselves yesterday, so let's go ahead and do that. I'll start with Alyssa. You can unmute yourself, Elisa.
Hold on one second. Hi, I'm Elisa Radcliffe. I am the wildlife and fisheries biologist for the Carson National Forest.
Thank you. Anthony, go ahead.
Hey there, Anthony Bates. I'm the branch chief for life and physical sciences here at the BLM New Mexico State Office.
Thanks. Cassie?
Aguilar, wildlife biologist for the Carlsbad BLM.
Thanks, Cassie. Go ahead, Dave.
David Heft, retired wildlife biologist, former CAC member.
Thank you. And Scott. You can unmute yourself, Scott. Oh, you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you. Scott's out of Carlsbad BLM as well. Okay. That's everybody.
All right, so moving on, we were ahead of schedule yesterday, so we did the first presentation that we had originally planned for this morning, we did yesterday, so we're gonna just move right into having Corey present again about the 6 Mile Dam restoration down in Carlsbad.
All right, thank you. So yeah, as she said, we're moving down towards Carlsbad in the southeast corner of the state. I was presented with a project idea from the Carlsbad field office down there. They came to me and we discussed it. I went and had a site visit down there and saw some opportunity and thought that we would present this project to you all as well. So move forward. So the project contact for BLM is going to be Matthias Tejas down in Carlsbad, and then myself for Game and Fish. So the project location, as described, 6 Mile Dam. It's 6 miles southeast of Carlsbad. It runs, well, you know, the coordinates there. You can see the section there. Now that outline of the project area encompasses the BLM tracks, and also the city of Carlsbad has a small. So the city of Carlsbad was donated the dam portion, but BLM manages. They have an agreement with the city to manage the whole area, and we do understand that as far as HSP money is concerned, that it's going to be spent on BLM properties. So we have figured that out, and I'll explain that a little bit later. Okay. So, like I said, a little bit of the background. BLM and the city of Carlsbad have a partnership. This is a public use area. BLM has done tremendous work on this area. So it originally was that local area that people would go out to throw trash, you know, treat it fairly poorly, since the dam itself isn't used as like a hydraulic, you know, as a power dam or anything like that. So they've done a lot of like mastication. They got rid of a lot of salt cedar. They put in these picnic areas along the river. It's starting to gain popularity within the community as a great angling opportunity for that area. And so the issue previously, like I said, a lot of salt cedar, which they've removed, that, you know, it's coppice sand dunes in that area. So the bank has a lot of erosion potential, and it does, and sediment within the system. Which I was unfamiliar with at first, but BLM explaining to me that portion of the river rises, it goes up and down pretty dramatically, you know, with those flash floods that go on around there. And so whenever the river rises by 4 or 5 feet and then drops down, that sand on the bank, it all settles in. So where this dam is, I'm guessing, you see pictures from, I think the original picture from the other side of the dam, it looks to be about 25, 30 feet deep, but I'm guessing it's filled in with sediment, you know. So this is, you know, a project that's going to help prevent more sediment and give BLM the opportunity, you know, they want to do dredging as well for this area. So this is just one aspect of the project, and it's roughly 1 mile long. And then you can see on the bottom right picture, they have installed a kayak launch. It's a really pretty area down there if you've ever been. And you can kind of see the mesquite and the mesquite right here, and then there's cattails along the side. But this was full of salt cedar at one point, and then they've actually planted native forbs as well after removing a lot of the mesquite and the creosote. So it's starting to look pretty nice out here. Okay. So the purpose of this project, what we're kind of envisioning is, and this, again, I understand this is going to be the beginning of this project, so this is going to be a design phase to stabilize the riverbank, create angling opportunities, and to plant native, you know, vegetation. You know, we're doing some willows, kind of doing a hybrid system of not just doing an artificial bank stabilization, but with willow and vegetation planting as well, and cottonwoods to create shade to help with the aquatic species to lower the temperature along the stream banks as well.
I'm sorry, could
Yeah,
you
go
go
ahead.
back? I'm having that bottom photo. Could you
Yeah, so this
describe
was just kind of like an idea. What I was thinking, or that we kind of came up with, is to do the bank stabilization, instead of just doing like gabion baskets or something like that, to do more of like a step tiered system. So that's going to act in 2 ways, not only for bank stabilization, but also that would help create angling opportunities to get down to be able to fish this section.
So that's masonry?
Yeah, that's masonry there, but I mean, we have other ideas. I mean, we're gonna, you know, consult with the engineers what would be the best, but of course we want to go to more of a natural, as natural as we can. But this is kind of just what we were thinking, more of like a step tiered system.
So that's a conceptualized
Yeah,
idea.
it's an idea,
Sure.
it's an idea of kind of what we want, but this is more, what we're presenting is the idea, the bigger picture of what we want to do, but of course, we would have to meet with the hydrologists and engineers, work with BLM's hydrologist and come up with a good plan.
And the photo above that, that just looks like ordinary riverbank.
Correct, these are just ideas, this is not in Carlsbad, so this is
Oh,
just showing like a willow, Collinwood,
These are just examples.
yeah, examples of what we want to do. Yes. So on the far right, it's kind of hard to see, we have a pointer, but if you can see the green boxes around these species, which is kind of unknown or people are unfamiliar with, is that the lower Pecos and in this area right here, these are all the species that reside within this system. And a lot of sport fish, there's flathead, a lot of flathead down there. People fish for gar, white bass. I mean, it's pretty unknown, right? People don't think about the southeast corner of the state for angling opportunities, and this is kind of a unique opportunity to help increase the habitat quality down here. And so anyway, so we'll talk about this. So the BLM property consists about 80% of the area. So that funding for 80% of these would be about $52,000 estimate. And then on the city of Carlsbad property, since it's technically it's not BLM property, what we would do is we would fund that portion through a different funding stream. So that way HSP, the only HSP money would be for BLM property.
That's it.
Oh, okay. Any questions? I know this is kind of a unique scenario, but when it was brought to me, I, just think that down in that corner of the state, we focus a lot in fisheries on the northern portion, right? And in the Gila, but we rarely look down in that area, so. I
So
thought it
Corey,
would
could you
fit
go
out.
a little bit about the current fishery? I'm not familiar with this. Even though I worked in Carlsbad years ago. So is there currently pretty good angling opportunity there now, or just developing it, moving?
There
forward?
are, there's a lot of flathead. When I was down there, I was, at dinner and speaking with a couple of locals and they were talking about how, man, that place, they used to catch giant flathead. There's a lot of largemouth bass in there. And so, but once that area turned into kind of like the local dump, then people stopped going. And now BLM stepped in and they've really cleaned it up and trying to make it a better areas.
What species are native to the?
All
part of
those-
the Pecos?
All those species that were highlighted in
Oh, those are all native?
those are all native species of the lower Pecos. And a lot of people don't know this, and I was a little shocked with this, but
Do you want me to pull it up?
yeah, hold that last slide up, and then if we can, it's kind of hard to read on here, but we can. So there's about 15.
So there's a green box there. It's sure hard to see it.
I know, I apologize about that. On the computer, it's a little easier than on the big screen. Oh. And of course, this is a poster that we have at Game and Fish, so when you're doing cropping and pasting, it never looks the same as when,
It's a little better.
yeah.
A
So,
little bit better.
yeah, so we have like largemouth bass, the gar, we have flathead catfish, buffalo, shiner, this is bluegill. I have that over here. Sunfish. Blue suckers, yeah, it's kind of hard to see. Pupfish,
Okay, so-
so there's a lot of species.
Yeah,
There's
okay.
a lot of native fish there.
There's a lot of native
Yeah,
fish,
and
yeah.
Not a lot of game fish, but you can fish for a lot of.
Yeah,
So is it dire that it needs to keep the fishing good for it to be dredged? Is that like some massive necessity to keep it a good fishery?
what's a
know, like-
necessity?
How long's it gotta be before you need to dredge it to keep
Oh.
the fishing healthy? And,
Oh, before we need to dredge it?
yeah,
I would have no idea. I mean, I haven't seen the you know, I don't know exactly how deep it is. I know BLM has been working with the city. They probably have more. I think some of them are online right now. If they, you know, they might be able to step in and answer more questions about the dam area itself. But it was mentioned to me during the site visit that that was a future plan, was to maybe dredge it.
Yeah, my question is it not needed for a while, you know, to do that, you know? So you fix the outside, but the inside's
So we fixed the outside, but it's still,
a
yeah,
little-
still.
silty.
Yeah, it
pool.
does
That's a
seem,
great
it
question.
does seem a little bit like putting the cart before the horse if you dredge it before doing any of the stabilization and habitat work that
Mhm.
needs to happen on the side. Then it's kind of like, well, why are you putting, because dredging is expensive.
Very,
Yeah.
expensive.
Very expensive. And so it does seem like we need to do the habitat work before they go in there and dredge. But, you know, for the sake of what we're proposing, we're not getting involved with the dredging aspect of it all. That is like, just to sort of put it in perspective, if we wanted to dredge Fenton Lake, for example, that's a $26 million
Yeah.
endeavor. And so I couldn't imagine what 1 mile of stream above this dam would cost. So we're not at all getting involved with that
Just
type of
want it to
thing.
be a, you know, do all that cost. on
Yeah.
Outside for the fishing, not to, you know, to be good. Still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There
no,
are-
I
there-
totally get your point.
There,
For sure.
yeah, there are, you know, there is a good population of catfish and bass in that area for sport fishing. Yes,
Question about irrigation water. What I read up here in the northern part of the state is that a large part of the water in the Pecos has to go to Texas. And there are different demands, and seems to me that the discharge on the Pecos must go up and down very, very drastically. And so how do you incorporate that into any kind of a restoration design? The channel must be wide at times and a trickle at the another.
well,
During
believe
the-
this part, I'm sorry, I believe this part of the lower Pecos, this is all controlled from the lake above and
Sumner Lake.
yeah, through Sumner Lake. And so it,
But the flow still goes to Texas and they have varying demands on that Pecos water. It's not constant. So the flow through Carlsbad must vary a lot.
yeah, and maybe at the end, some of the BLM folks that are online may be able to help answer the flow question.
It
Yeah.
just seems like the elephant in the room on this design.
Yeah, I got you.
We should
I've
just
got a
send them some
question.
silty water.
How much have you discussed using federal aid dollars for some of this? Because when it gets to angler access, that comes right out of F-22 or through federal aid.
Mhm.
And you actually have state match here. State and local matches could leverage 3-to-1 to federal aid money.
Mhm.
And so if you were able to write it up, and I don't know what your fisheries budget is or what you've spent it on, but it could be written up where you could use a much smaller piece of that to match federal aid grant money, Dingle Johnson,
Right,
because then I'm still thinking about this is pretty precious money to use on habitat stuff, and if you have another funding stream that you can use,
Mhm.
I'm not against doing it, but when you're talking about angler access, that's all about federal aid.
Mhm.
yeah, you're absolutely right,
I
and
just
there are,
wondered if you'd had that discussion internally.
Yeah, and then for this project, I mean, the main goal was for fish habitat was to keep the sediment from going down and then plant all the native, you know, like cottonwoods and, you know, to shade the area. And then after doing that, a byproduct of this is gonna create angler access.
that is,
It might be how you write the proposal.
Right.
Yeah.
Remember when the first, we called it HMOG or HMOS,
Yeah.
you know, the habitat management.
Mhm.
yeah.
A lot of that money was trying to be spent on building, angler picnic tables at Sharetti Lake.
Mhm.
I mean, which I didn't think was the right way to spend it, but again, It's just a thought to throw out there.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, yeah.
No, and that is definitely something, I mean, depending on, how the CAC ranks this particular project, that is definitely a conversation that we need to have.
How much of your federal aid's already committed to?
Like 98% of it.
But again, that's one of those,
Yes.
it's a future thing. You spend it first and then you get it back later.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We have the way the fisheries budget and is split up at Dingle Johnson is that it's allocated to different, how do I use this? Uses.
project.
So boater access is, and angler access is one of those uses. And, you know, we could definitely have that internal conversation as to whether or not we want to allocate some of those angler access funds to this project. Like Corey is saying, I think the first step of this is really approaching it from a fish habitat side, and then depending on a lot of variables, we will have that conversation. We want to allocate angler access funds to that. But like I said, the majority of our Dingle Johnson funds are. Yeah.
Projects change from year to year.
Yes.
Since I've been there, they're home.
Yeah.
Caitlin,
Clear.
Sorry.
the trick here is that we have probably about twice as many requests as we're gonna be able to fund.
Yes.
So
correct.
it seems to me like we have to be really convinced that there is a project going on that can all happen. We have lots of worry about whether things can happen anyway right now with ARPA funds.
Yeah.
So, I don't know,
Yeah,
convince us.
well, I see what you're saying, because now that we have, half fisheries and half wildlife, and now we're coming up with more projects to present to you, but we kind of just to give you the opportunity, to rank them what we see the most important, and, to give you, because I don't want to give you exactly projects. So now you have more projects. Yes, you do. You have more projects to choose from.
Benefit to this project is so far all of the fish projects that we proposed are on Forest Service land, primarily in the north, with the exception of the Main Diamond and South Diamond project.
Question, but I'm not sure they've seen it.
And DeVito.
I wrote a comment in the question.
Yeah.
I think that's Scott and Cassie are.
Yeah, well, Cassie does have questions, so I'm gonna turn it over to our virtual folks. Cassie, if you.
Yeah, they're unmuted. That's who we hear.
Oh, okay, so Cassie, go ahead.
This is Scott Lyric with Cassie Aguilar here in Carlsbad. I don't know why we're having some trouble getting our mute button working, but
Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
I think that we are years and years away from any need to dredge anywhere down there. The other point somebody made was a mile of dredging. The dam is toward the upper end of this 1 mile stretch. We would not need, if dredging is ever needed, it will not be needed for very long of a stretch at all. Those are two comments I wanted to make sure y'all understood. And not to throw a monkey wrench in everything, somebody started talking about the Texas-New Mexico Pecos River Pact. That has nothing to do with this stretch of river. That is something that's out of everybody in this phone call and meetings hands. I don't think it's worth even spending any time worrying about. That river flows through there with no consequences at all to that legal pact that was signed 70 years ago. So those are the comments I wanted to make sure that I expressed. Thank you. Wasting time on the damn.
Lisa, did you have a question or a comment? You had your hand up a moment ago.
No, ma'am, I didn't. I was just saying there was somebody trying to get ahead, your attention.
All right, thank you. Any other, Dave, you can go ahead and unmute.
for the sake of brevity, I won't go into any details, but I'll be very honest. If I was still on the CAC, this project would be the bottom of the list this year.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments from the virtual attendees?
I know I talk a lot, but to sell these things, in my mind, I mean, it's not just a fisheries project. You're talking about habitat, and there should be some discussion or some presentation about riparian species, birds, ungulates that use, and when you pull more of that together, and what you can show, it's going to give it more, it's going to give this project more weight, in my mind. Okay, and I know it's there, but if we have to sell that to the public, it's the bird watching, the duck hunting, whatever it is. And it's not just about flathead catfish and bass, it's about a lot of other things that would benefit from what you do. And it would be a good salesmanship to include that.
Well, you make a very good point, because this is a premier bird watching area. So they have a platform and a plaque for, it's on like the National Bird Watchers list of places to go. So it is used highly by bird watchers.
Maybe they can help fund it.
This project is very much in the discussion phases, and
Species of greatest conservation
Right.
need,
Yeah.
those things could be included.
Yeah,
They
with
would-
all that coming online now, we have some work figuring out how to incorporate. There's some new positions too
Yeah,
tied
I
to
know
it.
that's gonna be a big.
How that's all gonna shake out, I'm not sure. Obviously, it's a really good thing. Because they should be able to,
It's a
expand it.
wonderful opportunity for the department.
are there any other comments or questions? Well, we thank you for your feedback and. All right, we'll move on to the next project, aerial mesquite treatment in Carlsbad. So this is Alex. He's our newest, how long have you been?
This is March.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
The new
March,
area.
the newest regional habitat bio down in the south.
And the new George farmer.
Yeah, if you guys remember George.
Good morning, everyone. So I know it's been a little bit since Southeast area has had anything presented to the CAC, but I think we have a really great opportunity here to really consolidate a couple of gains that have occurred. So broadly speaking, this is a connectivity project. So we're looking at restoring a lot of grassland and Shan country that was established on some of these habitat areas in the Carlsbad field office area.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if I can get rid of that thing again.
Oh, it came back.
Yeah.
We thought we had it figured out, but.
So as you can see, mesquite encroachment across the southeast area has been a problem. This is just from some historical grazing practices. Prior to cattle, it was grazed heavily by sheep. And now it's obviously grazed heavily by cattle, and historically mismanagement has caused contamination from that mesquite to come in. And right now on some of these habitat areas, we're looking between 1% and 4% for cover contamination of habitat. So it's not super dense. And the thought right now is if we can get ahead of it and consolidate gains, we can look at potentially expanding the project through movement corridors and stuff in the future. And then our project contacts are obviously me out of the Roswell office. I guess we did this going here. Cassandra Aguilar out of the BLM and Scott Lyric out of the BLM office. So kind of the challenge was, how do we consolidate these gains and restore the sand shinnery and grassland community without degrading the shinnery community that's already there? So kind of one of the things that we've talked about is aerial application of Sendero to this. And one of the points of contention was the Sendero going to set back that sand shinnery? And then doing a little bit of research, we'll have 1 to 2 years burn on the sand shinnery, and then the sand shinnery will overtake that mesquite encroachment, and it should choke the mesquite out after that. So we're looking at restoring really prime habitat for the sand shinnery community in this area. So this project is big, about 115,000 acres. That is not the treated acreage. The treated acreage is significantly lower than that, but that is the total acreage of all of the combined habitat areas. And in total, there's about 16 that we're looking at treating. I think the biggest one that I've got, oh gosh. And the biggest one is 24,700 acres. And I think treated acreage on that would be closer to 4,000 acres. So it's a large project. Yeah. So here's some satellite imagery that shows where we're at. Hobbs is over here. Yeah. So it's in the Hobbs Jaw area. The Loco Hills is right up here. Broadly speaking, this map here is showing all of our habitat contamination. So this is about the worst one. Most of them is a consolidation of gains that have already been made to establish like a nice baseline of habitat, and then really expand from there. So in the future, maybe look at potential wildlife movement corridors between these consolidations that we've made. And I think it's doable. I don't think it's anything that's going to be particularly hard to accomplish. So this is a map that shows some of our historical and regular vegetation treatments. The yellow is historical treatments in the area. So that's generally tepitherite treatment prior to the 80s, where they were spraying sand shinnery. And I felt that data was important to put on there because this is a shinnery grassland restoration system. So we're looking at trying to reverse some of this. I don't know how well it's going to work. We're going to try it. So, and then the green is mesquite data that is more recent and it's rangeland mesquite treatments. So broadly, we're tying into a treatment system that's looking at reversing some of the issues that have been caused from tepitherite treatments, and then tying into a greater initiative across the southeast area of removing some of this mesquite and restoring a healthy rangeland ecosystem. Sorry. And then this project does have quite a bit of overlap with our Mescalero Sands Conservation Opportunity Area. So it will benefit quite a few SGCN species, and it's, as the conservation area is part of our wildlife action plan, I felt that it was important to include this information because it is pertinent. So in collaboration with the Bureau of Land Management Carlsbad office, we're looking to contract the aerial application of Sendero across these 16 habitat areas, focusing on the areas of highest contamination. So following the treatment, we're going to implement a grazing rest period so that we can allow the native community to regenerate. And this, as far as I know, this will include rest from cattle. So it's not just rest, and it's not just rest for chemical, it's also rest for grazing, as far as that. So right now we're asking for $150,000 to treat these 16 areas. So following the implementation of the Bureau of Land Management field office there, we'll enter into a monitoring phase just so we can make sure that we're accomplishing our project goals, and that if we need to do any remedial work or if we feel we need to do any mastication, we're hoping that we can use, if we have leftover funds, we can use it for some mastication in the future. That's something else that we're looking at. So following the rest period from this aerial application, we'll probably be bringing another presentation on this for mastication on these areas. But since the rest period is rather extensive to allow the chemical to work on the mesquite, I didn't feel that it was appropriate to include mastication on it for the intent of this presentation. Yeah. And if you guys have any questions.
So what's the average height of mesquite?
What'd you say?
The average height of the mesquite that you're trying to get rid of? Because once it gets to a certain height, aerial doesn't work as well, does it?
I'm not certain.
Because you have
on
to
that.
get to the.
Yeah, so
The stock of it.
this project came up, BLM Range has done mesquite treatments in the past on this and had success on it. This is kind of, I believe this is the first step in the wildlife section of doing the mesquite. But I think that's a question that Cassandra or Scott could probably answer a little better on the effectiveness of that application.
The herbicide that you're proposing is Sendero?
Sendero, yes.
What chemical is that?
It is better here. You're gonna say that, glychloride?
What?
I have the, yeah, that's that down to him. I have the chemical label right here for you, if you want to read it.
Oh, clopyralid?
Yeah, clopyralid, yeah.
Okay, so that's like a 2,4-D derivative.
Yes, yeah, it's a 2,4-D, yeah.
Okay, and why do you think that won't affect Shinnery Oak?
So historically speaking, they've had success using this chemical and rangeland treatments in the same area, and it has not burned you to turn.
I'm kind of skeptical of that. You know, I have a private applicator's license.
Right.
I use triclopyr.
Okay.
Weeds, which is very closely related to what you're proposing.
Right.
I can't imagine that the Shinnery Oak wouldn't be seriously affected.
Right.
So you're gonna have to do some tricks with spraying. Aerial spraying is indiscriminate. It's gonna kill everything but grass. And I would like to see some better evidence that this broadcast spraying won't hurt Shinnery Oak and other forbs that are there.
Right, and that's something that we can definitely look
So
into.
it sounds like, and this reminds me of something I'm not remembering completely, but one of the organizations a few years ago was proposing broadcast spraying of herbicides to improve grazings. And I thought it was down there, and that raised such a hue and cry in the public that it got shot down and abandoned. And I'm wondering if anyone here knows about that episode. It was in the news all over the place.
So,
and the opposition was fierce and continuous.
right. So I think the thing to remember is we're not treating the entirety of the habitat area. We are just targeting where the mesquite is at its highest percent cover. So
But those areas you're showing there, those are acres and acres, right? I mean, how are you going to, you're gonna do air from an airplane, right? Like a crop dust.
a low-level crop.
It's
yes.
a fixed wing application.
It's a fixed wing application, yeah.
And
we're not doing it.
it'd be targeted areas within those red polygons that you were seeing. It's not in the entirety of
Yeah,
those
so
polygons.
let me go back to the map.
Yeah, but really quickly, I think that maybe Cassie or Scott
Yeah.
can chime in to this, so either.
Yes.
Go ahead, Scott.
If you can hear me, the areas with heavy mesquite density infestations have very little Shinnery Oak. As Alex said, we're not going to spray the entire unit. We're going to focus on those areas with mesquite, and we're going to do the best they can. And I think they do well avoiding those areas with Shinnery. So with our past success with this method and chemicals down here, I think we ought to be able to hit a home run.
Jimmy had a comment.
Jimmy, you had a question if you wanted to unmute.
Yeah. So I was curious, how long's the proposed rest period after this, after the treatment for livestock?
Scott or Cassie, do you want to answer that?
Could you repeat it?
I forget what that rest period is. It's probably at least 2 years from my memory. And but we're going to make that work down here. We're working with Range and the ranchers and Kim and our staff, and we're going to make this money go a long way and do a good job with it.
And I do have a 2-year rest period on the product label for Sendero.
Okay,
So that's the minimum that's
right,
required.
because the half-life for those 2,4-D derivatives is fairly long. And I think it works, it's microbial degradation, and if you do it on dry land, it takes longer.
So that's one of the reasons that I didn't write for mastication in this presentation, is because we do also have to allow time for the chemical to work. So if you spray mesquite and then you come in and masticate too early, you can actually make the contamination worse. So the thought is to spray it, have that rest period, and then masticate it once we know that we're not going to have oxidoloads.
I also think we're going to have a lot of areas that mastication is not suitable because of soil conditions. So I would not put a lot of effort into worrying about mastication years in the future. That's neither here nor there at this point.
I'm also wondering about resprouting by the mesquite. I spray Siberian elms with straight triclopyr, and they die and they sprout back, and they die and they sprout back. I've done them 3 times in a row to get rid of them. I think mesquite is probably at least as hard as Siberian elms.
And that's one of the reasons that what we're going to enter monitoring. So we'll do the treatment, then we'll enter in that monitoring phase. If we need to do any remedial, we go and do remedial on a case-by-case basis.
That's why I was wondering the size of it, because the bigger it is, the more that the aerial's not gonna kill it.
Right.
So a couple of questions on your rest. So you're gonna spray dotted polygons of areas around there, and you're gonna rest those, but what about that outside of the rest? And how are you gonna keep that rested, especially from grazing? And a couple of course questions is, one, if you have a 2-year grazing and it doesn't rain those 2 years, you're not going to get any grass.
Right.
If it does rain, the best grass is going to be in the treatment area and the cattle are going to go there.
Right.
So how can you assure that it's rested?
So I'm not familiar with how the allotment systems work down there. That's a range question. So
You might have to, if there's 3 polygons that you want to rest and it's in a 40,000 acre allotment, you're gonna have to close the entire allotment.
Right.
And I don't see that happening.
Right, and that's ultimately up to cattle.
Like I said, it's not been raining for years. I wonder if anything is gonna grow, and then if it does grow, it's like a magnet.
Yeah.
So
ultimately, the grazing period is going to be determined by Cass and Scott and their range team.
well, I mean, 2 years is not even. I've watched the TEB treatments in northern New Mexico for antelope, and they did the TEB, and before their grass got up, the cattle were already on there, and the antelope that we put on there didn't survive because it was basically a treatment for cattle.
Right. And
okay, so I'm very suspect.
No, that's fine. But so the primary goal of these habitat areas is wildlife, and it's not cattle. So they're grazing allotment, but they have a little bit more power.
They're a little more overly conservative, and this also includes lesser prairie chicken habitat, correct?
So these habitat areas are listed as lesser prairie chicken habitat, but historically, I have not seen a whole lot of data that puts them that far south. That does not mean that they would not be potential habitat for reintroductions later.
And that's through, you talked with Grant about that?
Yeah, Grant would pray.
Yeah, I don't think he has anything planned for that area at this time, but
That's,
right now, but he said potentially long-term.
it's outside, it's historical habitat, but it's outside of what's considered essential right now.
Right now, yeah.
Okay.
I don't have plans for it right now.
There's a question from an online from Art. Go ahead and unmute and ask your question, please.
Okay, you had mentioned that the mesquite's place, the worst of the mesquite is only in in pockets of that 115K acres. About what percentage are you talking about needing treatment of that whole area?
So total percent cover of that whole area is between 1% and 4%. So it kind of varies between the habitat areas, and I think the worst is valuable.
So Alex, what is your cost per acre for treatment running these days?
So wrote based on a couple of estimates that I got from the range or from Cass and Scott and the range staff at the Bureau of Land Management, it was probably about $1, if about $1 an acre, but that's if you divide it out by the whole 115,000 acres. We haven't
actual treatment acres, because you're actually only applying to a certain percentage acre to that.
Right, yeah, and I don't have a solid number on the actual applied yet. I haven't gone and mapped any of it yet, but it's going to be a little higher than what we reported.
Yeah.
This is, from what I understand, this is a pretty solid number for what it's going to put. So.
Scott or Cassie, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think Alex covered it pretty well there.
Okay.
You're gonna be able to download those maps into the aircraft, and they'll know where to spray, and we'll have that acreage nailed down pretty solid. I know that.
There's a lot of gray area in this, right? Some of it's ultimately up to the pilot on what he feels comfortable spraying. Some of it is ultimately up to how we map it and decide to go about mapping it. It's not necessarily like a cut and dry number, because we kind of had that.
And the maps that Alex showed are not the maps we're going to use to do the treatments. We have a whole nother scale that we're going to work with.
Thank you
this
for that.
project combined with anything else, or is this just an HSP funded project?
It would be solely HSP.
It's solely, okay.
Yeah. With the hope that it can balloon into something much larger for connectivity and wildlife habitat across the southeast area.
Any other questions, comments, either online or, yes, go ahead.
I think it's under gold, after part of your presentation. You talk about applying a pesticide.
It's an herbicide.
I know it should be a herbicide, but your whole thing has pesticide. You have herbicides at the end of the thing, but take a look at that maybe and get that corrected. Just
Thanks,
be a
Bob.
nitpicky, but
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
I don't want you killing any bugs out there.
All right, yeah, no, and that's not. Yeah.
Dave's got. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just a couple comments. I think the CAC really brought up some valid points and all. At the same time, I have a lot of faith in Scott and Cassie. I have been involved in a lot of these type of projects during my time with the BLM especially. There is a lot of planning, real fine level planning that the public generally doesn't see, but they're very careful about this. I mean, I'm a little skeptical sometimes of herbicide also. Haven't had a bad experience with Soil Water District up here 3 years ago. But this can be a very valuable tool to improve habitat. There is one update I would like to make and make sure everybody's aware of. The latest issue of the State Wildlife Action Plan has dropped Mescalero Sands as conservation opportunity area. I just reviewed that plan again this morning. So for whatever reason, the Mescalero Sands is no longer in the State Wildlife Action Plan. It's an area of conservation opportunity. That's all I've got.
Thank you. Thanks, so.
It is 9:25, so we are about a half hour ahead of schedule. There was an online question for Corey's presentation, the 6 Mile Dam. Art was asking, since this is a design phase, is there a proposed timeline and are implementation funding sources lined up?
At this point, there is not. I have not thought that far ahead yet
For the
for
implementation?
implementation.
Yeah. What's the timeline for design work?
Timeline for designs, that would be, we could get designs done within FY 26.
So before June?
Before June of
next year, we would have
designs.
designs.
Yes.
Art, did that answer your question?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, how's everybody feeling? Are we ready for a break? We are scheduled for a break, even though we're running about half an hour ahead of schedule.
Let's squeeze one more in.
Squeeze one more presentation in.
Go for it.
Right, the Canadian River conifer thinning.
Our presenter for Canadian River is not right there. But
Oh,
we'll need a minute to get his presentation set up anyways, right?
Should we just take the break?
We'll give him like 1 minute, see if he's gonna come right back in.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh, Brock.
Oh, it's probably the break. No. You're a break.
You went on your break early.
You went on your break early?
I was on the phone with Kristen
Uh,
about the project. All set.
Yeah. Yes.
All good to go. Awesome. I will be giving a little presentation on the Canadian River conifer thinning and various continued other restoration efforts for year one of a multi-year, multi-agency project. This is taking place on the Kiowa National Grasslands, which is part of the Cibola National Forest and Grasslands out by Roy, New Mexico in the northeast part of the state. The context for this are myself, Brock, and Kristen Warren, who is the wildlife biologist for the Kiowa National Grasslands, which encompass the Canadian River Canyon. Here's a little bit more of the location. This is where the Kiowa National Grasslands are. They're a portion of the larger Kiowa Rita Blanca National Grasslands. Those are in different states. So we will focus on the Mills Canyon, Canadian River vicinity of the Kiowa National Grasslands in northeast New Mexico, right there. A little bit of background about this landscape, some history of it. So back in 1992, the New Mexico Department of Game and Fish transplanted some turkeys into the Canadian River drainage using HSP funds. And then following that, in 2007, there was salt cedar, otherwise known as tamarisk, control work that got cleared for being able to be done by a landscape scale EIS. I forget that acronym, but it's an NEPA thing. And then in 2009, there was some aerial treatment of tamarisk within the canyon to kill it. And that was successful. That was followed up with mechanical treatments, including mulching that standing dead salt cedar tamarisk, which allows the regrowth of a native understory, and cut stump herbicide treatment of resprouts, because much like mesquite, much like Siberian elm, one treatment isn't going to zap it completely. So in order for a successful project, you need follow-up treatments. Then in 2019, following collaborative work on this landscape, there's a collaborative group called the Canadian River Riparian Restoration Projects Group, and it involves agencies at many different levels. There's 8 local soil and water conservation districts, New Mexico Game and Fish, and the Kiowa National Grasslands that all contribute funds in project design to this landscape. So they continue to fund invasive treatments in the canyon in that 10-year gap from 2010 to 2019. In total, the conservation districts have contributed around $100,000. The National Forest has contributed around $200,000 to this landscape for those treatments. Following the success of those treatments, we had open ground that was ready for native riparian vegetation and more beneficial plants than tamarisk. So New Mexico Game and Fish funded some upland and riparian planting in the canyon that we have since revisited and found to be successful. Banks have continued to populate with willow, and beaver are actually utilizing those and creating dams in the area, and the upland plantings of any species, wolfberry, various forbs, and shrub species have been successful also. Then in 2021, the Northern New Mexico Riparian Aquatic and Wetland Restoration Project environmental assessment was signed. In short, that makes NEPA much easier. It's a NEPA checklist, so these projects can get their compliance approved much quicker. And that has paved the way for future restoration work, which we'll talk about next. Oh, I had a picture for each of those bullet points, but we can just work through those. You can advance the slides.
Oh, animation.
So yeah, here, if you go back one, that's a really cool one, actually. So this is where some of that before the salt cedar removal, you can see the banks. It's almost just a monoculture of tamarisk salt cedar. This is what it looks like after the treatment, after aerial spraying and then followed by mastication. And then here you can see vegetation recovery and willow and cottonwood starting to return. The cottonwoods that were already present are growing more vigorously, and you create opportunity for cottonwood regeneration and sprouting, seeding, and willow regeneration. So that was a cool graphic. The upland plantings and some of the riparian plantings, cages were utilized to ensure help ensure the successful take of those plants. And we'll get to that later because they have taken, and it's time for those cages to come off of the landscape now. And that's the cover sheet of the EA. So the current conditions in the canyon, a new problem that we're looking to address with this project is increased pinyon pine and juniper tree density in the cottonwood ribbon in the riparian habitat. Those are not traditionally there, and they're not desirable plants. They compete for resources with the riparian vegetation and limit the opportunity for riparian vegetation to spread and regenerate, which leads to more cottonwood recruitment. This is also, since that translocation of turkeys, a very popular turkey hunting spot in northeast New Mexico, and the conifer encroachment in the riparian zone degrades turkey habitat. And then as far as what's currently there, there's active beaver populations, which are always great for helping to aid human riparian restoration efforts. There's tamarisk throughout, and that's an ongoing battle also. So the proposed actions for this project are to reduce the density of conifers on up to 1,139 acres in Mills Canyon. These treatments would be targeted at areas for the greatest return, and I'm currently working with Kristen and the Forest Service to identify those areas. This would improve the health and vigor of cottonwoods and improve the recruitment of those seedlings, and would decrease the amount of heavy fuels in there that could contribute to stand replacing wildfire and loss of the old growth cottonwoods that are currently there that will act as a seed source in the future. We will also treat non-native invasive species, including tamarisk, Siberian elm, and musk thistle in Mills Canyon to improve the vegetation and the soil health on up to 600 acres of that landscape. And finally, we will remove the cages or little small enclosures that were pictured earlier that helped those plantings be successful, but they've served their purpose and it's time for them to come off the landscape. That's on 600 acres within the canyon. The benefits that we hope to see and expect to see from this are the restoring of key ecological processes, riparian vegetation stabilizes banks, helps with sediment, helps with shading for water temperature, and helps create a self-sustaining ecosystem. This enhances the watershed health and the upland and riparian forage production for deer and cover and habitat for turkey, or really all ungulates in the canyon, elk and deer. So the wildlife benefits we expect to see, turkey will benefit from this because it helps make roost habitat better and increase forage around cottonwoods. There's actually an awesome article in Turkey Call recently published in Oklahoma. They worked in some similar habitats to reduce conifer in the riparian area in 2022 and saw great benefit to turkeys and turkey population in that area. So this project is very similar. Thank Bob for pointing that out to me. There'll also be a reduction in the understory below cottonwoods. That increases the attractiveness of the habitat for turkeys and will improve the health, resilience, and vigor of those cottonwood trees. Clearing that understory will also help grasses and forbs to reestablish in areas previously shaded out by conifer and by tamarisk. This creates better forage for whitetail and mule deer. And the cutting of trees in this area will remove suckers of groundwater and will create less strain on groundwater that allows for additional flows to enter the Canadian River. This benefits native fish and wildlife by keeping a riparian landscape with more water. So in summary, the Canadian River conifer thinning and continued restoration incorporates a new treatment type into a over decade-long restoration efforts done by multiple entities on this landscape. It will expand the scope and scale of the ongoing restoration efforts. In all, over 3 years between all of our organizations, we expect this total landscape project to take about 3 years and have a total ticket price of about $925,000. That is not all game and fish. That is not all habitat stamp. That's the soil and water conservation districts. That's Forest Service direct contributions and game and fish being a part of that. We see ourselves as helping to kick this off in the first year by contributing $310,000 to accomplish those proposed actions in the previous slide of the 600 acres of riparian conifer thinning up to 1,139 acres of invasive treatments, and then 600 acres of the cages being removed from previous work. The NEPA for this area is already complete. Some of the compliance work, including archaeological compliance, has already been completed by the Forest Service. There will be some site-specific, once the specific treatment sites within the landscape are identified, that needs to be done, but we're very close. The anticipated implementation start for this project would be spring of 2026. And that is all I have. I'm ready for questions or comments.
Schrock, a couple of comments I got on. I think you did a really good job of presenting this project, bringing in all what's happened in the past and how you're going to utilize past projects to do additional stuff. So commend you well on that.
Thank you, sir.
Well done. One question on your thinning, is this lop and scatter, or is this, what is your plan here with the?
Yes, it would be a majority lop and scatter. These environs are tough to get machinery into. And for pinyon and juniper, mastication is not super necessary. You can get desired effects with lop and scatter, and that coarse woody debris on the landscape has potential to enhance the riparian area as well.
And is there plans to stump treat the juniper at all? Is this alligator you're dealing with, or one?
It's a mix of one seed and alligator. Yeah, the cut stump treatment would be part of the specific treatments for specific areas. So yes,
Good job on it, sir.
thank you, sir.
We have an online question from Art. Let me see. Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering, you talk about the beaver populations in the area. You anticipate any adverse impacts on the cottonwoods you're trying to grow up down there?
Well, beaver eat cottonwood and cut them down, so yes, there could be some adverse effects, although the beaver population is present already. And there are cottonwoods there. Part of this treatment would be to increase cottonwood vigor, which is partially, it's to help the beavers, but it's also to help the cottonwoods in response to beavers being on the landscape. Beavers are good, but they do remove willow and they remove cottonwood. So if we can get more cottonwood growth and more cottonwood recruitment, that would benefit the cottonwoods and also benefit the beaver. Does that answer your question?
I was just wondering if you were thinking about doing any, putting any cages around, the young cottonwoods to help keep them on the landscape a little bit longer.
Yes, I did not understand that. And riparian plantings include cages. Yes, so the cottonwoods would be protected from the beaver. Yes.
What's the status, if any, of cattle grazing in Mills Canyon?
There is very, very little cattle grazing inside of the canyon. There's allotments on the rim. But the grazing within the canyon is almost non-existent. It exists to a small extent, and it's very short seasons. And in conversations with Kristen, the lessees are in support of this work. Not for their cattle, because they spend a very, very short part of the year in the canyon, if they are in the canyon.
Is that because of fencing? Because the access down into the canyon is difficult for cattle? Why is that?
It's a twofold. It's a practical cattle into the canyon, difficult access, and it's most of those leases are unoccupied.
They're not.
They're not being utilized. Okay. Yes, sir.
I first went down into Mills Canyon probably in the 1980s when I first came here, and it's a really, really neat place. And occasionally gone back there. The last time, which was maybe more than 5 years ago, it was totally grown up with invasive weeds. It's hard even to walk through there down to the water. And I think maybe some of them were kochia and I don't know what else, but they were head high and really, really nasty. Is that going to be addressed? Is that still an effect, or have they been removed from past restoration effects?
I don't have super specific details on that. In my site visits, I did not see massive amounts of kochia. It was musk thistle and tamarisk were the main invasives I was seeing. I could get back to you with that. I could talk with the wildlife bio who's.
I guess I just want to know if that is a concern, is it going to be addressed? I think those invasives are going to outcompete the native grasses initially.
Yes.
And some kind of treatment will be needed in order for those grasses to recover.
Issues like that are part of why we wrote this to be broad and are still working out the details. Invasive treatments is for what's there.
Whatever, okay.
The poster child species are musk thistle and tamarisk and Siberian elm. But should we find areas of different ones, that's why we presented invasive treatment so that we had the option on the table to do that.
Okay, thanks.
I've been going up there for about 30 years, and it's what has occurred is amazing. The progress is amazing up there. I think my first time up there was at 86. And I was up there last year, and they've done a wonderful job. So it's completely different. It was a jungle of hammocks, and now it's got a really nice feel to it and more a natural riparian area.
Thank you. And I should add that New Mexico Game and Fish, completely separate from Habitat Stamp, is working with State Land Office currently to do this same kind of restoration on State Land Office parcels with completely separate funds that are adjacent to the National Forest and fill in those checkerboard spots. Because if you have Tamarisk Source in the middle, it's going to go downstream. So that's more of the multi-agency landscape scale work. I forgot to mention that.
That whole area is an archaeological site, right? If it's over 50 years, it's by definition an arc site.
Mills Farm.
And there are foundations and the original ranch that was there with the fruit trees.
The orchard there, yes, sir.
Are you gonna have to basically cordon those off to avoid people, the workers from encroaching on them? It seems like it might be hard to work among all of those.
It
Park remains.
is a complication to work around those. Thankfully, the Forest Service has been excellent partners in the archaeological compliance. If you're familiar, you're coming down from the Mills Campground and there's that great overlook where the orchard was. Because of rules about high water mark, we did pole plantings of willows all along the bank, just down from where the orchard was. So the Forest Service has been excellent to work with to make restoration work possible in a heritage complicated landscape.
Okay.
So it is a factor, but it is a factor that we found solutions to.
Any additional online questions or comments? No? Well, we have caught up with the schedule, kind of. It's now almost 9:50, which we had scheduled for a break. When we come back from a break, we will have one more HSP project to present to you, and then we can talk about, do public comment section and stuff. So let's do, let's do it. Come back at like 10. You want to come back 10? 10 minutes and stuff? I feel like 15. I think we should give ourselves 15 minutes.
Well, if you say 10, it'll turn into 15.
That is true. All right, 10:05, we'll be back. Thank you. All right. We're on, okay. We have our last project we would like to propose for HSP funding. Listen to Corey one more time.
It's the last time.
Not him again.
Okay.
When you're set, okay?
Yeah.
Give
All
us-
right.
Give us 1 second for just share. Della post. We need to share. Are we good? Yes. We figured that out. Sorry, that's the prize for the
Okay.
today. All right, go ahead.
All right, so we're going up to the Santa Fe National Forest for AOP, the Aquatic Organism Passage Project. I met with the Santa Fe for potential projects, and this is one that they identified that they would like some help funding and its importance to these streams, the Rico Peñas Negras and the Rio Savoy. And so project contacts for this, Brendan Sucher, he's the fisheries biologist for the Santa Fe National Forest, and myself for Game and Fish. So project location, we can see from, this is Seven Springs, this is Fenton Lake down here, to just give you an idea, and these are where these AOPs are. This is the Upper Rio Savoya, and this is the Peñas Negras, which eventually go down into the Las Vacas down here. This is what it's a tributary to. And then it's kind of interesting, I guess this is in the Cuba Ranger District and the Jemez Ranger District. There's, the line is kind of like right in here somewhere. So it is on both districts. So we'll do the project background. So this is the first one, the Rico Peñas Negras. This AOP, which is a culvert original, or it is a culvert, it's completely separated right here. And then we can see that on this picture, this is the creek and it runs around the side of this culvert and then it pops up right here and then the water flows downstream in this culvert. And so it's, there's no way that fish and other aquatic organisms can, well, certain aquatic organisms can pass through, but definitely not the fish species, which are Rio Grande chub and sucker are the fish species that inhabit this creek, and they are SGCN species. This is the Rio Savoya AOP, and it's hard to see. This is the upstream part of the creek, and this is downstream part. So the creek goes underneath this concrete slab, and then it drops out right here. And this is at low flow, as you can see. So again, this prevents fish migration up and down the creek. This is a core conservation population of Rio Grande cutthroat trout with greater than 99% genetic purity. This is also a popular angling creek for Rio Grande cutthroat trout as well. So the purpose of this project for these two is kind of similar to the first to the Carson one that I described. Is we want to replace these culverts with more of a habitat friendly structure, which is more of a half dome without a bottom. That way we can put the natural substrate down. It's going to mimic natural channel design. It's going to promote fish and aquatic organism passage up and down the creeks. Going to restore the ecological processes. This like previously, it decreases maintenance needs since it is an open system. It's not, it can't get clogged, can't get blown out because they're a lot larger. It will actually promote wildlife passage under the road instead of over the road as well, because they'll be large enough for that. It's gonna, if we bundle these two together, just because they're in the same area, and if we can knock them both out at the same time, it'd be great opportunity. And when we did the site visit, you can see on the previous photo, that culvert, it's made up of like 3 sections. You got like 2 heads on each side and then the middle under the road. And the head is completely falling apart. And this is also going to serve as a purpose of preventing future damage for fish habitat as well, because that once that culvert and the erosion around it, it's dumping a whole bunch of sediment into the creek. And eventually it's just going to blow out. And then the Las Vacas and all the systems downstream are going to be affected by this as well. Now, this is an expensive price tag, and I understand where a lot of the questions are going to come from. This was brought to me from the Forest Service because of the lack of funding, and so they're asking for fish habitat work, for help for fish habitat work. And this would be a multi-year project with designs and construction as well. Estimating that designs would probably be done by next year in 2026, and then implementation will be in 2027 if all goes through properly. And that's going to be it. I know there's going to be a lot of questions I can answer as far as the habitat side. Trying to cover that from the last one is, yes, it is habitat work because we are creating fish habitat underneath. It's going to create fish migration and prevent future degradation of habitat downstream when that first culvert flows out on the Peñas Negras, and then the second culvert. There's just no way for cutthroat trout to responding and migration up and down the Rio Cebolla, and it's a really important creek as far as Rio Grande cutthroat trout conservation. Okay, I think questions.
Well, Corey, just a comment on it. This looks like you're looking at the entire package being funded by Habitat Stanford.
Correct. And if yes, and that's what's being proposed at the moment, just because the Forest Service.
For me, there's no engineering monies for Forest Service for road engineering or anything like that.
Not at this point when I asked about it. I asked, and this is kind of just, they were just hands tied.
And this is for one essential culvert is basically what this is. Two culverts.
For two, the Rio Cebolla and the Peñas Negras. Correct. And yeah, was there another part of the question?
No, just clarifying that this was totally funded by HSP.
Yes, this would totally be funded by HSP.
Because the two, AOPs in the Valle Vidal were 225K, and that was you're buying
we're just buying
the bridges and putting them in. Right?
Yeah, we're just
buying. You have to have a design here, and so.
Yeah, we have to get the designs, but then not just the culverts themselves, however, but the construction part of it.
Okay.
To implement it, and then the area is the Peñas Negras one is easier to access than the upper Rio Cebolla. Those roads are pretty bad, so there would have to be some work done to be able to move equipment in and out. Yeah, and then the NEPA is already all done on these, so the Northern Riparian EA covers all the NEPA, and it is cleared archaeologically as well.
I'm trying to visualize where that culvert is on the Rio Cebolla. It's above the Seven Springs Fish Hatchery. Right?
Yeah, it's about a mile above the hatchery.
So that's like McKinney Pond. That forest road is closed at just above the fish hatchery. Regular vehicles can't go up there. I think it's only open for grazing permittees and Forest Service. Is that correct?
So we trying to think what forest road that was.
McKinney Pond is.
You're talking about going through Seven Springs.
Yeah, it goes through Seven Springs, go beyond the fish hatchery. The road ends at a parking area, and if you want to go further up, you have to hike.
Yes, and while we were out there doing a site visit, we came across several anglers that were out there fly fishing.
Right, but I'm just saying this crossing is not for ordinary traffic, it's just for official traffic. Grazing permittees and Forest Service.
Correct, yeah.
At this moment. You can't drive up that part of the Cebolla.
Can we go back to
This one?
Yeah, so actually there is a road, I was trying to think of because you're talking about coming up from Seven Springs up here.
Oh, okay.
There is another road from the Peñas Negras.
Oh, that's 144.
And it comes all the way down and comes over and you can get to this.
Is that where it is there?
Yeah, so there's a road that comes through here
Okay.
as well. Not this road, you can't get up that road. I mean,
It's closed off.
yeah, but this road, you can get to it from this road.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think that's called informally Pipeline Road and it's.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the pipeline road, yeah.
144.
Yeah.
Okay. That's right up on the Bias Caldera boundary.
Yeah, yes, that's correct. And that's how we got there was this road here.
Okay.
Pipeline used to be the best road in that mountain.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe some virtual
That's right.
CAC works out.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy, go ahead.
You actually had my question answered or asked for me. So I was just curious to know. I mean, I understand since they're right next to each other, doing them both at the same time, but given the price tag, did you guys consider like presenting them separately?
Well, yes, I was thinking
It's like all or nothing, right? Is what you're essentially asking. And that's like all your, if we split the money 50-50, that's essentially all the fish money.
Correct, yeah, we were trying to throw a different, it's like a diversity of different projects. Maybe we could do, instead of doing multiple small projects, we could do, a couple of larger projects. So this was just kind of an idea just to throw out there and see, how the reaction to a larger project instead of a bunch of smaller projects. And yeah, so it's good to get the feedback and see what people think about that idea.
This might actually be one of the cases where, since they're similar projects, if you design them both simultaneously, you reduce the amount of cost as opposed to two separate engineer and implementation projects. You just kind of reduce the cost because you're doing it as a package. But
Based on the estimates, the designs were less than 10% of the total cost.
Yeah.
So it's the implementation, it's actually building the structure that's costing all the money. So
Understood.
I don't know, just a point that like.
No, that's a great point.
Both of them or none, right? So rather than if you presented them separately, you stand a better chance of at least getting one.
Okay.
Okay.
I understand.
Another question.
Yeah.
On the Savoya, I think that's almost up to the headwaters, the beginning of the Savoya. Most of the Savoya where the Rio Grande Cutthroat is all down there. So do you really have much of a population that needs to go through there?
Yeah, yeah, 3 surveys, there's cutthroat trout all the way up and down.
But it's just a small section of habitat upstream. Yes?
Yeah, it's closer towards the headwater than from there down to
I
the.
hiked up there.
Yeah.
And the river runs out as you get up there. There's not much. How far past? I don't know. I've only been up to that Pipeline Road part. Yeah.
Art, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's similar to what Ron's been asking. Just want to know, like, how much connectivity are we adding to the Savoya, for cutthroat water? Ron's kind of indicating doesn't think there's a whole lot up there. And I can see, looking at it, but what are we going to gain as far as good fish passages for the cutthroat on the Savoya?
Well, the way I see it is, as far as, Rio Grande cutthroat trout conservation is, even, let's say it's 1/4 of the whole system, but still, past that or going upstream, that, I mean, we still don't want that 1/4 to be isolated from fish migration. It's still a break in the habitat. So I feel like it's just as important if there was a road crossing halfway through. I mean, it's still a road crossing that's preventing fish migration for important spawning habitat above that as well.
Okay, I would like to hear, how many miles of stream are we gonna connect?
Well, I understand, okay.
And I guess if we funded the design work, that might be a package that could easily be carved out of this. What would be your thoughts be on resubmitting for implementation in future years, and whether you consider breaking it up at that point?
That's definitely a possibility. Yeah, we just, like I said, I just wanted to throw something a little different out there and see how the CAC feels about a whole package, or, just to put it all together and do this project and all together, or if the public has, stronger feelings for just doing designs first and then bringing the other stuff later on, then, definitely take those comments.
Have you reached out to anybody else to help with any of this funding?
No.
Trout Unlimited contributed some funds for the design work up in Five et al. We heard about some other and Stewart Meadow work above. I was just wondering if you've reached out to anybody else.
No, I have not reached out to anybody else. This was kind of a last minute project that was brought on, a couple months ago, that was identified with the Santa Fe, that they kind of wanted to present to the CAC, and or wanted me to present to the CAC. So I said, sure, I think it's a good idea, and we'll throw it out there and see how everyone feels and the comments and go from there.
Yeah, the cost of it's just.
Yeah, I understand.
Pretty high.
I understand,
Love
yeah.
to see a partner in there somehow.
Yeah, definitely. Understood.
I mean, especially for, it's good. It would take a bunch of the budget just for those culverts.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
I know there's been some precedent for forwarding components like that of a project. Obviously that can get to be like a slippery slope if we're looking at that for every single project, but it could be something that we can talk about, I think.
Yeah.
And discuss more at the next meeting if there's strong feelings about the price tag on that, and trying to maybe just get a smaller piece of it done first.
Yeah.
Any comments from the public on this? Okay.
Actually, I got one more thing,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
So the Pinas Negras, that's actually part of the Rio de Los Vacos deal. Could that actually be broken out of that and then moved into future Rio de Los Vacos plans for the watershed of that?
Oh,
Extending
definitely,
that project and getting that done at another time?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely is.
Because won't we be kind of working our way up
Yeah.
that way anyway?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a possibility.
Definitely is, yeah.
Any other comments either from CAC or the public? How about the CAC members online or the public online? Any other questions or comments? Hey, thank you, Corey. Right, so we're now on to, let's see, it is 10:27. So again, we're ahead of schedule here, which is great. I think we're all excited about that. We'll move into just general public comments on any and all of the presentations.
Yeah, I think just on presentation.
Just on the presentations.
General public comment.
Yeah, if there's
Anybody
anything
here
from
or-
yesterday or today that folks want to comment on?
I'd like to have one input just from a standpoint. I'm a little disappointed in the southern forest, not seeing much of anything from the Gila. We have one, seeing nothing from the Lincoln, which is a little frustrating as to the opportunities down there and just nothing's been presented.
Yeah, we are working with staff in both places.
Yeah, I realize, I just want to make that point. That
Yeah.
It's just kind of absent right here, and I understand
yeah.
why.
Yeah, I will say, so separate from HSP, last week, 2 weeks ago, we were able to contribute on a reseeding effort on the Gila on that trout fire star. In those places where the burn severity was really high. Actually Jen was able to go out in those field days with them. So there are other ways in which we're engaging, certainly with the Gila. So just wanted to throw that out there.
And then also, non-HSP is we're moving forward with the project above Bonita Lake. We're partnered with the city of Alamogordo to do restoration work above, because they had that huge sediment load going to the lake, and so they're worried about it again. So we are moving forward with designs to do in-stream habitat restoration for the section right above Bonita Lake. It's gonna be a large project.
We're really starting to iron out some of the wrinkles with, 50% fisheries related projects and 50% wildlife projects. And so I think that as we find our way through figuring out how this is working from an HSP standpoint, I think we're gonna have more partnerships with Lincoln in the Gila, just like we do with Carson, and then, also BLM, especially down in the southwest, southeast, getting some of those BLM partners on board. That's why we wanted to present the 6 Mile Dam project, just to to show you that we are engaging with our BLM partners in the southern part of the state as well. So, yeah. Slow process, but we are really ramping up our efforts. I think I'm gonna turn it over to you, Caitlin, so you can talk about next steps.
Yeah, so the next item is talking about our project prioritization meeting, which is where, everybody's now veteran, I guess, on the CAC. So that'll be our opportunity to hash out the final ranking on these projects. We have to get that scheduled, obviously, and I thought about bringing up the doodle poll potentially in a second here, but did want to bring up again, the question was asked yesterday, how much money it's going to be. It'll be just shy of $2 million. And one of our ideas in going into this meeting actually was to separate the rankings for fish and wildlife projects. I don't know how you all felt last year, but it seems like everybody's trying to do some calculus within their own ranking of projects as far as how to shake out the 50%. And this would be one way where if you rank all the fisheries projects and all the wildlife projects separately, you wouldn't have to be thinking about that necessarily. And so that's one of our thoughts for going into this meeting is ranking them separate.
Guess the part of the fish or the habitat, when you're breaking them apart, then what part of the fishery watershed, there was such a gray line of what is actually both.
Gotcha, yeah.
And I know we've talked about that, but I don't know how that's actually.
Yeah, like our first cut obviously would be whatever projects were kind of developed through the wildlife division would be wildlife. But that said, last year on that Rio de las Vacas, we were able to split it. So that's something that could be looked at and going into the meeting, I guess.
This year.
Where you could just put a line item on both sides. Like what this year would, so if it was last year's, for instance, Rio de las Vacas would be on both the fish and wildlife lists with the respective breakdown, the half and half. I don't know.
And what projects this year would be considered half and half? They're pretty cut and dry this year.
Yeah. Traditionally, it's like the real in-stream stuff.
Meadows to a little bit, right?
A little bit, it's not fish oriented though. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, traditionally, it's been the real in-stream work has been fisheries. project.
I don't know. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable the way the committee works to kind of sort things out. You know, we can individually, you know, indicate our preferences and then we discuss and it sorts out. It sorts out pretty good. So you guys as the bookkeepers have to keep
That's the
tabs of the
challenge, yeah.
50%, right? So, and that's over multiple years, right? So,
Right, it would make it cleaner from that
yeah,
standpoint.
so I think,
But,
I think,
yeah,
you know, we're aware of that. And so just let us prioritize projects. Is
Okay.
what I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
any other feedback on that?
What was the dates for? the
Yeah. It looked like August 5th and 6th and 13th and 18th and 19th were coming out. I know JP, yeah, you're hoping for prior to.
Yeah, yeah,
The
I'd hate to
15th.
miss it. It's my last one.
Yeah. I don't think we're gonna sort, I don't know that we're gonna sort it out today, right now at this meeting. I think there's a few things we've got to figure out internally and maybe a couple other items hanging out there, but just wanted to, yeah, just get a general feel. We pull this up.
The 5th and 6th, that would be better for me because I'm in a meeting with the department that we're not sure about which hours of which of those 2 days it would be. We're meeting with,
Yeah, the
Right.
other reason I wanted to talk about it was the 5th and 6th were kind of rising to the top, but obviously that's 2 weeks, so.
2 weeks, yeah, that doesn't work for me, because I'm in Wyoming that whole time. It doesn't have to either, so.
Come on.
Okay,
Yeah, you can, last year, didn't you? Yeah,
I
Jimmy.
missed last year as well for that same reasons.
so the 13's right in the middle of my first pronghorn hunt in 15 years. So if you pick that day, I'm not gonna be there.
Okay,
So
We'll be there.
good to know. All right, let me share this quick.
Yeah, and I definitely can't make the week of the 11th. It's just, I'll be out of town, so.
I haven't had a New Mexico tag since '88.
Yeah, so if you look at our doodle poll, and I don't think we have fisheries input on here yet, so that's something that we have to talk about. But biggest numbers are, yeah, morning of the 5th, that afternoon of the 6th.
Do we have to have 2 days doing it?
No, it would just be a half day.
Yeah, and the reason I'm all Xed out there is I started doing it and it only let me do first date and then lock me out. But
That's weird.
I only got to it, earlier in the week, because I've been out of town for most of July.
So, yeah, the 6th I'll be meeting with Snowman and Riley for at least all the morning. We're not sure about next week. So
So
the
fifth-
building.
5th looks like the. Right?
Yeah, I mean, the 5th is looking like the best day on here, but that's only 2 weeks, so.
I don't know why we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I have no problem.
it's
problem with that?
Fresh, everything's going through.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have
We're
some
gonna smoke
outstanding.
this anyway.
I don't expect I'll be.
Tomorrow.
We can do it tomorrow.
You can do it tomorrow. Yeah, the benefit of having it being the 5th is that
Yeah.
things are fresh in your mind. Life hasn't gotten away.
We got a half an hour. We can do it right now.
Just do it right now. You want us to step out?
All right, well, I mean, sounds like it's probably tentatively gonna be around there, around the 5th, but, double check with these guys and make sure that's all good and hear from you this afternoon.
For Bert, maybe?
Yeah, I'm good all the way.
I can do the 5th.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'll just be.
It's a Monday, right?
That's some days.
Yeah, okay. Cause the 6th, you're out, right?
That 6th is when we're meeting
Yes.
with Riley and.
Okay.
Rick.
Cool. Any other feedback on making that meeting smooth? I know last year it seemed to go pretty well.
Yeah.
But, would certainly, if there's already some ideas for how to make it better, I'd like to incorporate it.
And we'll send something in.
You'll have the prioritization sheet for it.
Yep, we'll send, I guess we should get that out to you pretty quick
Yep,
here.
yep.
And then, it helps us a lot if we can get numbers back
Yep.
prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be well in advance, just we can plug that in and have somewhere to start from with the discussion. Do we have another question? Will the recordings of yesterday's meeting and today's meeting be available to the public? Yes, Jordan. Okay.
Will be put on the website, correct? The
Yes.
recordings,
Yeah, on our YouTube page,
oh,
where they end up.
the department.
But yeah, they're ultimately on the YouTube page, and we try to put a link on our Habitat Stamp webpage for it too. Okay, next item is calendar update discussion. I'll pull the calendar up real quick. This is just a discussion item. And actually, I think we talked on some of it the last meeting. Okay. So one of the first item is that annual report that in the past would come out in September. We've shifted that to be coinciding with the audit findings, which we get at the end of the calendar year. So that's just something to keep in mind going forward. And that is posted on our website, and it basically allows us to be absolutely accurate with reporting of numbers on what was spent once that audit's complete. And that was tied in with the narrative on what happened within that last year. So that was one item, and the other item is something we wanted to throw out there for consideration, and no decisions have to be made today, but the timing of these meetings creates some challenges on our end, being in the summer, in terms of being kind of in the middle of field season, for getting the meetings done, as well as getting the presentations and everything put together. It also coincides with the end of our fiscal year and beginning of a new fiscal year, which is incredibly busy 2 months for us. So lately, we've been thinking about shifting these meetings earlier into the spring. And I don't know what that would be. Obviously, we have a rollover of tenures in March and April. So if per se we're gonna do that this year, we probably wouldn't want the meetings to be in March, because there will be new committee members in April, right? But potentially an April-May setup for a presentation meeting and a prioritization meeting. I see another benefit of that being that then the fiscal year starts in July, and that gives us effectively 2 or 3 more months to implement.
That sounds great.
But
And that gives more time as well for our field bios to have conversations with our federal partners and iron out some of these details.
yeah, the winter's obviously a less busy time. That said, there's parts of the state we actually are still operating in the winter, but for the most part, for us, all of our partners and us, winter is a little bit of an easier time to be getting together and finalizing some of these details on these project packages. Here, I can't see the Zoom screen, so let me. Here. Yeah, Jimmy or Art. I know, have any thoughts on that? I know you guys are in that group that is only gonna be around for less than a year at this point, but your feedback is appreciated.
That'll work.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Okay, well, I don't know if that's something we need to vote on. Perhaps it could be done at the next meeting. We could put it as an agenda item,
Be good.
because it is, the calendar is part of the HSP guidance document, so.
I mean, I think that makes good sense to move back a little bit.
And this year it'll mean, obviously a shorter window, but
Shorter, yeah.
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, if nothing else, from the standpoint of your fiscal year implementation,
Yeah.
it just makes much more sense.
Because once we have, the rankings decided, then we already know, like, as soon as that money hits, it's go. And now we're waiting 2 to 3 months into the fiscal year before we can start anything.
No, that's a good point.
It's just asking, you can't make motion now.
We could make a motion now, but if you want to put it on the agenda.
I mean,
It wouldn't be
I
any
think-
less official if it was made now, right?
Probably not, yeah, if everybody's feeling comfortable with that.
I think somebody would just, make a motion to move and then just vote on it.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Stella, can we get that marked in our meetings and then?
Leaf, and then Mark Cadwalder. And that motion is to move the project presentation meetings to April
And prioritization.
and prioritization meeting to May. Okay, all those in favor? Those against?
Yes.
Jamie, are you in favor?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
so moved, thank you.
Thanks, Mom.
She's gonna keep us all.
Gotta have a boss. That's why I'm still alive.
That's why you're there.
All right, well.
Council advisor for several years. so-
He was a school teacher, but you.
Yes,
We need you here.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just want to say thanks again to everybody, CAC members here and present virtually for your preparation for this attention and obviously your important work in coming up and ranking these and the feedback you've given us is
Yeah, we
really
very-
informative and helpful.
We very much appreciate the feedback.
Thank you.
That's,
Thank y'all for the presentations. They're very good.
It's gonna be some tough thinking here.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everything's good, there's just not the money and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
there's less money every year, so to speak,
right.
or the whole picture, yeah.
Great. And thanks to those online too. We appreciate you. And everybody who's part of presentations and putting together packages, whether you're here or not. So, with that, we could entertain a motion to close.
At 11:46. 10:46.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Knock on your house.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. What do you?
Thanks.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Art.
I had a landowner tag.